What's good, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. So today I am reviewing It Chapter 2, and I'm also doing a McDonald's mukbang. So first gonna go over all the food I have here. I have hash brown, got some ketchup already set up. I got their fruit and maple oatmeal. The fruit's right here. I guess I just put that in and blend it in or whatever. And the sausage McGriddle, which is like my favorite thing from the McDonald's breakfast. I don't go there that often for breakfast, but that's what I usually get. And this is the French vanilla latte. So I'm just gonna get this set up and we're gonna talk about this flip. So there is the sausage McGriddle with the classic M on the front. All right. And while I'm blending up this fruit and stuff in here, we'll get started with talking about the movie. So It Chapter 2 is directed by Andres Muschietti. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. And stars James McAvoy and Bill Hader. Now the movie starts out 27 years after the last one ended, as we learn in it. And one thing to keep in mind with this movie, I have not read the book, so I'm just going based off what I've seen in the films. So the movie, we learn in the first one that it goes into hibernation every 27 years and then comes back to kill. Primarily children, because they are the most vulnerable to fear. So that's established early on in the movie, is that it has returned, and you see Pennywise there, and everyone has left town. So then we cut to the Losers Club. As I just mentioned, everyone has left town with the exception of Mike. Mike is the farm kid. His parents were, or his family, I think, was burned in that house. So he contacts all the Losers Club. We kind of get caught up on where they are job-wise and family-wise. And it's kind of on the nose, but there needs to be character consistency, so I don't mind that. Some of it, it's fairly predictable, but not where it's like in your face predictable. So they all come back to Derry. Now they've forgotten about everything that's happened. I'm gonna start off with this hash brown and try out this vanilla latte. So everybody comes back to Derry. Then they get together, the whole gang is back. And everyone's forgotten about what happened, except for Mike, because he never left. Now as they come back, they start to remember things. Things start to come back to them. Now Mike has become obsessed with it and finding out what its origins are and how they can kill it. And pun intended, it, yeah. That's like, anytime he's talking about the movie It, like, yeah, am I talking about, when I say it, am I talking about it, or am I talking about, like, just saying the word it? Yeah, I'm sorry. I digress. So Mike shares his spiritual journey and what he's found out, and basically explains to everybody. Now everybody's come back there with the exception of one. He explains to everybody, listen, this is what needs to be done. Y'all need to find these tokens and we need to do a ritual. And now before we get into that, we do get a little bit more Pennywise, which I personally like. I love seeing the monster. And it's just establishing more that he's present. He's there. He's killing kids. So what they have, where everybody finds their token. If you remember from the first movie, the Losers Club is pretty much together the whole movie. Except they do have a falling out after the incident in the garage, and they kind of break up. They have a fight, as friends do. And in reality, friends, stop talking over less, stressful things. Now, where they went, what they do, where they spent their time, while they were split up, is where they find their token that needs to be a part of this ritual. So with that being said, you just get like backstory. So that's the only part of the first movie that you didn't see. So that gets filled in and makes it a more complete story. So you find out what they were doing, and while they're alone, they're more vulnerable to Pennywise. and him preying on them. When they're together, they're a force. When they're separated, they're weak, they're vulnerable, they can be preyed upon. This is okay. So that's what I really like this part of the movie. Because you get to see a little backstory. You get to see things you didn't see from the first one. You get to see the kids again. I really like them as kids. So getting to see them. This is where there's some good scares. Different varying levels of scare. But very cool. So they get all their... I want to kind of cut to what I like and what I didn't like. So I'm not going to spend too much more time on the plot. So they get all their tokens. They go to where Mike has found they need to do the ritual. They do so. And they have their final showdown. I'm not going to blow open the ending. I'm not going to ruin the ending for y'all. I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to go over some things I liked about the movie first. And then some things I didn't like so much and if I recommend it or not. Let me get into this sausage McGriddle first. This sausage McGriddle is a pro. So, what makes sense to start off my pros with the McGriddle. Let's bit my lip. Alright. So my first pro. As I just mentioned in the plot, the movie is primarily focused on the Losers Club. Pennywise, or it is kind of a side thing going on. He's there, you know. That's not the primary focus. I feel like he's more the focus in the first movie. So, but when we do see Pennywise, I love him. Pennywise is great. Pennywise is great in this movie. If you wanted to hear him talk more, you're gonna like this. He talks more. I wanted to get even more of him. They gave us some of them, but I wanted more Pennywise. But the movie is focused on the Losers Club and their journey, and it's their story, so I get it. I like James McAvoy in it. He plays Bill. Bill is basically Stephen King, more or less. He's a writer. As he grown up, I don't want to give away everybody's career. I kind of want to let you watch that, find out. Some of it's kind of cool, some of it's kind of predictable, funny, whatever. It works, but James McAvoy does a great job as Bill. He is, in my opinion, the best actor in the movie. Everybody else is okay. Nobody's like a real standout, but he's the. I mean, Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise is a standout, but you know, I'm just talking about like human characters. You know what I mean? So I really like that. I don't want to get into a lot of technical stuff, but the movie's shot really well. Cinematography's good. It keeps that small town consistency going. Looks a lot like the first movie. Like when they go do the flashbacks, you got the 80s flashbacks. So I like that as well. I like that it completes the story. It's a complete story front to back, the first one and the second one. Now, while I'm talking about this, I will say I like the first one better. However, as I mentioned in my last video, it took me a couple viewings to appreciate the first one. So, I might feel differently. I might like this one more afterward. But at this point, I like the first one better. But this one makes it a more complete story. So that I do like. The effects in it are pretty good. That's a pro and a con in my opinion. There's some effects that are really good, but there's also some effects that are not so good. So that's touch and go and can depend on your tolerance of CGI or green screen or whatever. I also really like the flashback scenes. I liked all where they have to go back to where they were as kids, where they were vulnerable, because there's some really good scare scenes there. It fills in all the blanks, so I really like that. Now, to get into a couple little things I like before I go over the cons. The movie feels a lot, not feels a lot like, but has things in common with a movie called Dream Warriors, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, where the group of kids have to band against Freddy, the monster, and kill him. They're the ones going through it. So, there is a little nod to Nightmare on Elm Street. Also a little nod to The Shining as well, which I love. Shining is one of my favorite horror movies, so I love the nod to that as well. And probably my favorite thing about the movie, other than Pennywise, is there is a cameo in this movie. Now, I'm not usually big on cameos. Don't usually like them. I feel like they interrupt the flow of the movie. This one I feel was spot on, perfect, unexpected, well done. It's exactly where this cameo should have occurred. It was perfect. I don't want to ruin that one. That was like my favorite part of the movie, to be honest. So that's my pros. Go over some cons. The length. The movie is really long. It's 2 hours and 50 minutes. If it's gonna be that long, I need to see more Pennywise. I need more Pennywise in the film. It just is what it is. It's a long movie, and there's scenes that drag on longer than they need to, specifically the end. Every scene in the movie is pretty necessary. I didn't see really anything that was unnecessary. Everything kind of ties in. However, they could have cut back on some of those scenes. So even though they needed them in there, they could have trimmed them back. And that's why I would have liked to see them done. Another con, the humor. Now, I love Bill Hader. He's one of my favorite all-time Saturday Night Live cast members, and his impressions are fantastic. I absolutely love him, and I thought he was great to play Richie, who was the jokester of the crew. I did. However, and this isn't actually a knock on Bill Hader. This is a knock on the writing. Some of the humor was not well placed. It just wasn't. Now, if you watch a movie, you can feel differently. Now, I'm very particular about that. At high tension points, at high, like when I'm like, all right, my adrenaline's starting to get going, the thrill, the fear is starting to get in there, and then you cut to a corny joke, I don't like it. And that happened a few times in this movie, and it hurt me each time. I was like, come on, man, you're right there. Why are you cutting to this joke? Now, Bill Hader, he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. Dude, he's not either way. I like him. I still think he was a good pick. I just don't think he feel like he was utilized well. They're like, okay, we got a comedian in the movie. Let's just throw in jokes all over the place. No, don't do that. Let him be an actor. As a person who's always been a comedian, I'm sure he's probably excited to do a horror movie. Let him to be a little bit of a, just an actor. But you don't have to throw the jokes in there all the time. As I mentioned, some of the acting was, it was okay. I felt like the ending was a little bit convoluted, a little bit messy, but it was okay. But I would like a better ending because they did complete the story. They completed this great story, but I still would have liked a more completed ending. And kind of what I just mentioned before, there's some green screen in the movie. I am not a big fan of green screen. I don't like it. I don't like CGI. The only time I think CGI is acceptable is when with creatures and monsters. That's it. Otherwise, do it on location. I like on location shooting. And I feel like with a big budget movie like this, they should have been more on location shooting. So that kind of, that hurt it as well. It wasn't, big con, this is probably one of my bigger cons, the trailers of the movie ruined certain scenes of this movie. If you watch trailers of this, the movie is going to be affected. Now, there's some things you can say, oh yeah, that was going to happen anyway, but yeah, knowing you've already seen the scene in a trailer, and then you watch it in the movie, it ruins the effect. It takes away the impact of the scene. And I didn't like that. There's one in particular. Now, if you already haven't seen any trailers, don't watch any trailers. But like that is a con for me. I didn't like that because it took away the impact. Now, this movie didn't, like the first one marketed itself as being the scariest thing since sliced bread. This one didn't do that, but it wasn't scary. It was more like their story. It felt more like a drama than a horror movie, if that makes sense. And when I go into a horror movie, I want more of a horror movie. So that's kind of a con. It's not a big thing because I feel like they have to do it, but just the way the story was told, I felt like could have been done in a scarier way. And I would have, there were some things with Pennywise they did where you get some history of them. I would have liked more of that and cut back, just trim back on a little, like a minute or so of all the flashback scenes. It would be tighter. People want to see Pennywise. People want to see the monster. This oatmeal is okay. It says fruit and maple. Maybe I didn't mix it up well enough. I don't really taste the maple. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that about sums it up as far as my major pros and cons. Everything else was just kind of by the book. I mean, I would recommend it. If you've seen the first one, you like the first one, I would definitely recommend this. I'm gonna have to rewatch it. It would only be fair for me to rewatch it because when I first watched the first one, I didn't like it as much, and now I really like it. So I'm gonna have to rewatch it, but I would recommend it especially if you've seen the first one. If you haven't seen the first one, it's a good story to watch if you have the time to invest. That's the thing. It's a long movie, so I check it out. If you like horror movies, absolutely. I'm interested to see really what people feel like on this movie. I feel like it's going to be kind of polarizing. I feel like some people are going to really like it. Some people are not going to like it, and there's going to be people like me. I'm kind of in the middle. There's some things I really like. There's some things that I think could have been improved on to make it better. But I would be very curious. Just to see what people think. What did you like? What didn't you like? But yeah, go check that out. Let me know what you thought. Let me finish this coffee. Well, I was surprised there wasn't that many people in the theater. I mean, maybe because it was a Thursday. I don't know. But yeah, go check it out if you have 3 hours. It's still a good story, despite the cons I mentioned. It does work. If I'm not one to give like the 1 to 5 stars type thing. That's not really my shtick. I would probably stick it somewhere around like a 3.5, somewhere in that neighborhood. Would probably be where I would put it, even though I don't like really doing that stuff. Like I said, I would recommend it. It's one that's better to see in the theater. But yeah, go see it. Let me know what you think. Come back, comment. I would like to talk about it. Maybe there's some things you guys saw that I didn't see. I love the Easter egg stuff, so when I go back to see it, I'm going to be looking at for more of that stuff. I always go see a movie the first time, I'm just trying to absorb it, and the next time I go back to answer all the trivia questions and do all that stuff. Thank you guys very much for your time today. I will see you guys again soon. Until then, be well.